Alright, so this is the second of our videos in the Paths to Progress series. We're cranking out 3 of these in 3 days. And the first one was an overview of how I view the learning process with guitar, both for myself and for students. Today we're going to talk about instruction, both private and class instruction. Video number 3 is going to be about tactics you can use to get the most out of teaching yourself. And those will also apply to things that you get from an instructor or from a class teacher. Now, I'm going to talk about class guitar first. This will be a lot shorter than the private guitar teacher part. I'm not a big fan of teaching basic guitar skills in a class setting because you only go as fast as the slowest student in there. So whoever's really cranking through stuff gets kind of penalized. And then whoever is really not cutting the mustard has a lot of time spent on them, but typically they're not progressing too much either, and then the people in the middle just aren't getting very much attention. I've taught these classes in schools, I've taught them in teaching studios. I dislike them so much that in spite of the fact that they'd be a big revenue builder for my business, this teaching studio here, I refuse to offer them. So that's kind of my take on taking a beginning guitar class. One of the reasons why I do have the studio though is because we teach performance classes, and those are really, really important to me, where we put people together in bands and we teach different styles of music and different skill sets and whatever. And there's a lot to be gained from a setting like that. And in a lot of cities, I know in Chicago and in Manhattan, I'm sure a lot of other places, there are studios that are offering these kinds of classes where you can go and play with other people. Those are very, very useful. They're very helpful. To me, they're not a replacement for private lessons either, though. You know, having someone actually work with you on your personal skill set's very important. So that's kind of the deal with the class approach to guitar. I think if you're playing with other people and playing music and having to learn songs, very useful. If someone's showing you how to play an A chord in a room with 30 other people, not so useful. Now, as far as private instruction goes, the first thing you have to do is find an instructor that's worth taking lessons from. I look at it like this. You should be able to, wherever you live, find 3 or 4 people that teach guitar that are affordable to you, and take 1 lesson each with them. And a lot of guitar teachers will do a free trial lesson. If they're a good instructor, they know what they have to offer is going to be worthwhile, and it's going to be a matter of chemistry. You know, do your personalities work? You know, I mean, because that's the other side of it is, you know, I could be the greatest teacher in the world, but if we don't get along, it's not going to work on that level either. You know, so that's one thing is take 3 or 4 lessons from different folks and see which one's the best fit. Someone who doesn't do free trial lessons, at the beginning level, they're probably not worth taking paid lessons from, because they're not very secure in their ability to actually land you as a student. There's no certification for guitar teachers. You can't go and say, let me see your guitar degree, and have that mean anything in terms of being able to teach guitar. So you kind of have to find the right fit for yourself, and it might take a few people, but don't get tied in with the first teacher that you find and have it be a bad experience and have it kill the instrument for you, because I've seen that happen before. So that's the first thing is find an instructor that you're going to feel comfortable working with. Now, the beginning of this whole process, there's 2 things you need to do. One of them is that you need to communicate to the teacher what your needs and goals and capabilities time-wise are. I teach young kids, I teach teenagers, I teach music school students, I teach professional and semi-professional musicians, I teach adults with busy jobs and families, I teach retired people. Every one of those groups of people has a different amount of time that they can commit towards playing an instrument, and they have a different amount of attention that they can commit toward. There's so many different variables there. So, a teacher has to be able to work with what you're able to do reasonably every week. I'm a big believer in doing weekly lessons. Half-hour lessons aren't a bad thing as long as you get down to business. For beginners, I'd rather give you a lot of stuff and have you practice at home, and then have you work that stuff the next week, and not just have it be, we're going to play songs for 60 minutes. That's kind of my thing. I teach a lot of hour lessons, but they generally tend to be for more advanced players. And we have a lot more that we can cover in that hour and make use of. If you can't find an instructor in your area, there's always guys that teach via Skype. I do it. A lot of the teachers here do it. I know a lot of guys online do it. You can go to any major guitar forum and go in the playing and technique or lesson loft or anything like that, and say, does anybody here teach Skype? And you're going to have, via Skype or webcam, you're going to have, probably 5 or 10 people go, oh, me, I'll teach you lessons, and it's a very viable way of taking guitar lessons if you live someplace where you don't have access to a good teacher. I've got students on the East Coast. I'm here in California. I've taught people in Europe before. As long as the teacher actually knows how to work that format, it's a very good way to take lessons. So that's that. Now, you've communicated what you want from the lessons, but the teacher has to have an idea of how to get you from point A to point B. There has to be a program. If the teacher just says, "Hey, we're gonna play songs," that's all you're gonna do, red flag. Your first lesson, if the teacher gives you a bunch of scales and you don't know any chords or you don't know anything else, red flag. There has to be a way of taking that pipeline we talked about in the last lesson, that process, and putting it to use. You need to be able to play music. You have to have a way of getting to that, though. There has to be a system of working through chords to play songs and to apply your rhythmic skills to those chords, and things have to be explained to you so you can understand what it is that you're doing. You want the teacher to give you the tools to continue learning guitar after you're done taking lessons. If the teacher is presenting things to you in a real rote manner and you don't understand what you're doing other than this is what you're supposed to be doing because the teacher said so, that's kind of a waste of time. That's really not what you're paying for. All right, so there's that whole thing. The instructor needs to be giving you a full amount of instruction. If every lesson's easy, that's not a good thing either. You're paying for the instructor to challenge you. They need to find the things that you're not good at, dig those things out, make you work at them. A lot of my students end up working on their rhythm guitar skills a lot more than they thought they would be. And by the end of it, they realized that, well, this is something I really needed, and it also really helped my lead guitar skills. A good instructor is going to find what you need and work the lessons around that. One other factor that you want to think about is the idea that all the music you make shouldn't happen in your lessons or from your lessons. I'm a big believer in that the students that learn music aside from their lessons or play in bands and whatever, if they've got separate music going on, they do better than everything that they play comes from me. They end up having to find their own answers and their own solutions, their own workarounds, and they learn how to survive as a musician outside of the lesson studio, which is real important. I'm supposed to be giving you the tools to do that, but you have to be able to use those tools. So that's an important thing. That's going to be part of what we're going to talk about in the next video. But find music you like to play with. Find someone that's a duet partner or someone you can play acoustic guitar songs with, or find a band or some jam buddies for the garage. Any way that you can make music and apply the skills that you're learning in the lessons, the more you're going to own them. I've said this before. If you just sit in your bedroom, we call it Madison Square Bedroom on my forum, and I think that comes from another forum too. The more you do that, the less you're actually going to be able to play.